This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
Time for the Sunday program and a busy couple of hours straight ahead. What a day we had Saturday in the National Hockey League. So much going on. In fact, some of the stuff from last week kind of carried through the weekend. We're heading into one more week before everybody gets a break of a few days. So we're going to try and cover as much ground as we can. Arthur Staple from NewsDay covers the New York Islanders, who had a big win last night over the Los Angeles Kings in overtime. Arthur will be joining us. Jeremy Rutherford covers the St. Louis Blues for The Athletic in St. Louis. Blues with a 2-0 shutout victory over the Winnipeg Jets. Jeremy will join us to talk about that. In hour number 2, Josh Cooper with all things West Coast and beyond. Luke Fox from Sportsnet.ca did a really good piece a couple of days ago called The 100 Things I Love About the NHL. And, you know, with so much spew and sniping going on, I wanted to find some positives and the like. And, of course, it being Sunday, that means our regular weekly visit from Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, with this week's Fantasy 5. Help for you in your fantasy hockey pool. As mentioned, we've got one more week, then everybody gets a break for a few days with the holiday break and the national holiday schedule. And we'll have a little update on the on something that Steve mentioned to me last week when I said I was having a real bad week with fantasy, is the Costanza strategy that he suggested, as in George Costanza from Seinfeld. And if every instinct you have is wrong, then you should do the opposite. So we'll have a little update on that from Steve as well. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, Saturdays and Sundays, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, live at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app that you can download now from the App Store. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Periscope, YouTube Live, and more platforms to come. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. And also a little leftover business from yesterday. I was in such a hurry to make sure I thanked all of our guests because we were overloaded yesterday with guests. I neglected to mention our Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day, something we do every Saturday. We look for your nominations for the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We ask them to send them to us via Twitter, via Instagram, little photo, name of the dog, little story if there's one that goes along with it. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. It's every Saturday. We'll be doing it again next Saturday. Brooklyn with a nice Santa photo yesterday was our Dog of the Day. Brooklyn's kind of sticking her tongue out just a little bit at Santa, and I don't know if that's a good thing at this time of year, but that's the winner from yesterday. Up on our website, up on our Facebook page. If you're scoping it out on the website, of course, you can check out the list of Todd's favorite things as well. Still time to pick some up for holiday shopping. Hope you're having a good weekend. It is a super busy time of the year, as I mentioned. Lots of hoopla, lots of stuff going on. Hopefully you're getting a little chance to finish up all the things that need to be done and then enjoy some time with family and friends. This will be a busy and hectic week, but hopefully you manage to squeeze in a little time to enjoy some hockey as well. What a great Saturday. It was terrific because I really enjoy the afternoon schedule where you got an early game, we had a late afternoon game, and then it rolled right into a full evening of action. Thought it was really good. There were some good stories from the games on Saturday. Cam Talbot comes back from injured reserve. He helps the Edmonton Oilers win a close game, or turned into a close game with the Minnesota Wild, with Matthew Dumba scoring a couple of goals. Good win for the Edmonton Oilers. A small positive. It's just one game. It's hard to get too excited, but take it, move forward, hopefully find some other positives as you're going forward. Got to go back home now and take on San Jose on Monday. So it's a positive. It's a win. Cam Talbot is back. Milan Lucic was kind of a beast in that game against the Minnesota Wild. Scored one goal as he pounced on a rebound. It was kind of a broken play. Lucic pumped it in. Then he had a nice assist on the game-winning goal from Jesse Puljujarvi. Lucic was just kind of being himself and lumbering up the ice, trying to keep up and going around as well as through a couple of defenders. He can't keep up on a shift-to-shift basis if he's going to be on a line with somebody like Connor McDavid, despite some that are suggesting that, oh, look at the speed he's got this year. No. He can contribute on a regular basis when he's physical, when he's engaged, when he's determined. He was doing that against the Minnesota Wild yesterday. He's still too slow to go up and down and play a high-tempo game. That's not his game. He's not that fast. but it was a nice win for Edmonton yesterday. The all-or-nothing Philadelphia Flyers won again. Lost 10 straight games. Doom and gloom. Dave Haxtell was being pushed, shoved, coaxed out of the door by some. All sorted out now. Everything's good. Lost 10 straight. Went out and won in Western Canada. They keep winning. 2-1 tight game over the Dallas Stars, who have had a real hectic schedule over the last week and a half or so. But Philly got the win. 2-1. Needed extra time to do it. So as we check the standings before play starts on Sunday morning, you glance over and find the Philadelphia Flyers just 4 points out of a playoff spot. Who would have thought that a couple of weeks ago? Very few, if any. What a victory. Rangers with a big win Friday at LA versus LA. They beat the Bruins in overtime. Same thing. Early on in the season, doom and gloom. The hatchets were out for Alain Vigneault. That's it. This team's over. What are we going to do with Lundqvist? The window's passed. Ease up. Things seem to be okay now. They come up with a victory over the Boston Bruins on the road. Start a game less than 24 hours after the start time of their Friday night contest. Vigneault's mixing up lines. He's shuffling defense combinations early on in the year. They're struggling. All seems to be coming together now. 9 victories in their last 13 games. They're 9-3-1. That's pretty good. And the Rangers are in the postseason as of Sunday morning and after the results are complete on Saturday. That's impressive. Mentioned the St. Louis Blues, Winnipeg Jets, first of a home and home on Saturday. They play again on Sunday. Jeremy Rutherford will join us in a little bit. We'll talk a little bit more about this game. Carter Hutton also came back from IR. Helps the St. Louis Blues shut out the Jets 2-0. 48 saves. He didn't look great prior to going on IR. You suspect that injury was bothering him, but he comes back. He looks great. And the Blues scored power play goals. Vladimir Tarasenko had a power play goal. Huge, really grinding out a victory. Jets will hope to get back on the good side, the winning side today. Now, the Jets will hope to get back on the winning side, not just so that they can say they split the series, haven't lost any ground, haven't gained any, but haven't lost any. It's a real competitive Central Division. But you know the Winnipeg Jets are also going to want to be enjoying their post-game celebration ritual that started a little while back. They have done some interesting things in Winnipeg. Kind of think that they're a little funny. There's a little quirky, but there's a bit of a sense of humor in the city, and I kind of like that. There's a little personality to it. Last year, remember that the handshakes were a thing for Winnipeg? So Winnipeg's lost back-to-back games. They lost their yesterday against the St. Louis Blues. We'll try and get it back again. So they haven't been able to play one of the songs that they like to enjoy post-game as part of their victory celebration. That, of course, is the beautiful Celine Dion rendition of My Heart Will Go On. Yeah, the 20th anniversary from Titanic. Yeah, sure, it's that is the post-game win song that the Jets have been playing recently. They win a game, out comes Celine, and the little flute and everything, and everybody thinks of standing on the front of the boat. And yeah, this started as they went through Vegas on a road trip. Now, they didn't win in Vegas, so you didn't play the song, but they were in the city for a while. So they went to see a performance by Ms. Dion for charity. She comes out, says hello, hi, how are you, and everything. So the Jets move on the next night, play in Arizona, and win the game. And Matthew Perreault is in charge of the music, apparently. So somebody yells out, it's like, hey, play Celine Dion. My Heart Will Go On. That's what we want to hear. So they played it, and it's kept going. Hey, sure, if it's working for you now, they've lost a couple of games, so maybe they'll revisit. But that was the song. Now it's not the first song. It's not the only song that the Jets play. Glorious by Macklemore and Skylar Grey is first up, but then straight into Celine Dion. Hey, if you like it and it works for you, fine, no problem. Carolina Hurricane. Just, I don't know. Just, when you think of a big victory celebration, I don't think of My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion, but apparently it's working for the Winnipeg Jets. Carolina came back after a long road trip. Friday night, they got a win in Buffalo, had to go back and play against the Columbus Blue Jackets, who were waiting for them in Raleigh. Scott Darling, terrific. Canes get a 2-1 victory. First time in the year, hey, Carolina's got a winning streak. How about that? Carolina's got a 3-game winning streak. Scott Darling, really good. Jordan Stahl had another goal. I still can't get too carried away with them yet. Been burned too many times. Nashville Predators making their case to be the best team in the league. Perfect Western Canada road trip. Shutout victory over the Calgary Flames. Ryan Johansson, Kevin Fiala had the goals. Pekka Rinne had 32 saves. Here come the Preds. Here come the Nashville Predators. They are rolling. 3 straight wins, 46 points. They're tied with St. Louis in points for top spot in the Central Division. They have played 2 fewer games. Pretty spectacular. That's something. Tampa Bay, best in the East. They lead the overall NHL standings with 50 points. They got out to a nice lead, then eased up. Colorado came back. They managed to eke out a 6-5 victory. Fortunately for the Lightning, one of their star forwards, Vlad Namestnikov, wasn't seriously injured in the second period when Colorado defenseman Eric Johnson lost his mind. The only logical explanation I can come up with. He attacked Namestnikov. No, he didn't commit a foul. He attacked him. The two are skating back toward the Avs goal. Winds up with a big two-handed lumberjack swing. That wasn't enough. As the two continue to skate towards the Avalanche and as they get to the goal line, Johnson shoves Namestnikov face first into the boards. Well, needless to say, there was a scrum that ensued afterwards. Refs got it right. Johnson got 2, 5, and a game. I expect he should get more. This should not be the end of the discipline for Eric Johnson of the Colorado Avalanche. He should be suspended. That was a brutal, dirty attack. I don't think this is going to happen. Johnson's been suspended once before for a couple of games. I don't expect this is going to happen, but it should. He should be offered an in-person hearing for that brutal play. I don't care if you're down. I don't care if you're having a frustrating season. I don't care if you're having a frustrating night. That's just stupid. It's careless. No, it's beyond careless. It's reckless. It's dangerous. Fortunately for Namestnikov, doesn't seem to be any sort of serious injury. It could have been really awful. Just pushed him, planted him right in the boards. Absolutely stupid. I hope he gets offered an in-person hearing. He should be for that. That kind of play, and I don't think any player in the NHL or any coach in the NHL would object to that either. You just don't need that. It's unnecessary. It's dirty. It's dangerous. You can seriously injure a player with that kind of thing. Absolutely foolish. Ridiculous and dumb. But Tampa keeps winning. That's 7 in a row now for the Tampa Bay Lightning. 32 games, 50 points to lead the league. Pretty outstanding. Oh, a couple of really nice moments I want to mention too. We'll end on this segment on a better note. A couple of really nice moments in games. The Avalanche surprised the children of U.S. Navy member William Doyle when during their Star Wars night, they had during one of the breaks, Doyle came out in costume and took off his disguise and surprised his kids. It was a really nice moment. And the Washington Capitals did the same thing for James Stanley of the U.S. Navy as he surprised his family and came out, and they were unaware. Both had been deployed far away and were back and reunited with their families in time for the holiday season. Really nice moves by the Caps and the Avs organizations to reunite those families. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. That's always gets to me. Just that scene, that wonderful reuniting scene always gets to me. A lot to get to in this hour. Arthur Staple will join us in the next segment. We'll talk New York Islanders. Jeremy Rutherford also coming up. We'll talk more about the Winnipeg Jets and St. Louis Blues in the second half of that back-to-back that goes later on today. Josh Cooper will join us. Luke Fox with a little discussion on his list. 100 things I love about the NHL. And Steve Laidlaw with the Fantasy 5. All coming up. #Fantasy 5. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. Back with more after the break.
There's special savings for Hockey Unfiltered listeners with our new ticket partner, Seat Giant. And Canadian fans can also purchase in Canadian dollars. Go to SeatGiant.ca, find the tickets you're looking for. Doesn't matter if it's NHL games, concerts, or any other event. You get a special discount with the promo code TODD. That's Todd with 2 Ds. Just enter the code, get the discount, you save. That's simple. Save on your next ticket purchase with Hockey Unfiltered and Seat Giant. The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Search engine optimization is the key to success for your online business. It can be the key to success for any business. 1-844-SEO-LEAD is the number to call to get your business at the top of all searches. An official partner of Google, they have the tools necessary to make your business the one people notice first. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now you can nominate your dog or any dog you love as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day through Instagram. Every Saturday, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis will take your nominations for the Dog of the Day. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo with the dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate your dog. We choose a winner at the end of the show, and your dog will be recognized in the HU Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more.
Welcome back. This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Sunday edition here Saturdays and Sundays, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. Lots to get into today after an 11-game Saturday. 4 more on the Sunday schedule. Josh Cooper will join us. Luke Fox from Sportsnet.ca coming up. Stephen Laidlaw with the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5. We'll talk a little Blues and Winnipeg Jets and the second half of their home and home. New York Islanders victorious over the Los Angeles Kings on Saturday with a 4-3 overtime victory. Arthur Staple covers the Islanders for Newsday. Follow him on Twitter at Stape Newsday, and he joins us now. Arthur, after a couple of losses and a few losses over the last couple of weeks, a nice victory in OT for the Islanders on Saturday over the Los Angeles Kings. Kind of good to get this homestand off to a positive start.
Yeah, and I definitely needed this one. I think there was a little bit more enthusiasm about this win and these 2 points in that room than there had been in a while. I think they realized that this was a big game, not just getting the win to kind of curtail some of the losses, like you said, but coming back from 2 goals down against an LA team that, despite their bad trip through the tri-state this past week, has certainly been one of the best teams in the West. And and shaking off what they thought was a rough go with the decision on the last second goal by the Kings to tie it. They were able to come back and win it in overtime. And yeah, just looking at the way the Metro has been going lately, especially yesterday, where pretty much every Metro team, with the exception of the 2 in Columbus and Carolina that played each other, every Metro team comes out with 2 points. You can't afford to let any points slip. And they were able to get the second one against a Western Conference team.
You mentioned the late goal by the Los Angeles Kings that was allowed to count after video review. I was watching it and I looked at it a few times and thought, yes, that should be a goal. It seems to me that should count as a goal. But I understand the frustration of the Islanders, and in particular head coach Doug Weight, who was very demonstrative last night on the bench when in the game before you have one that doesn't count, and then in the game last night, this one does count against them. And I can appreciate the frustration, and it's so hard when things are open to interpretation about what is goaltender interference, what isn't goaltender interference, and the like.
Yeah, I think, the one you're referring to, Anders Lee had one that was taken off the board on Monday against Washington. It was a game they won, so it didn't end up costing them quite as much, but a similar situation, not identical. I think Doug was a little overzealous in his desire to make those two situations seem exactly the same. But Anders Lee had the puck first and ended up pushing the puck and Braden Holtby's pad over the line. And then that was taken off the board. And then last night, it looked like Andrei Kopitar's stick was certainly in there next to Thomas Greiss' pad, but I think the difference was most crucially that the goal in the Anders Lee's goal in the Washington game was called no goal on the ice after the officials conferred. And this one last night was called a goal on the ice. So in both cases, Toronto just confirmed what the on-ice officials saw. And I think that was the main difference. You know, when the call on the ice, especially in those 50-50 goaltender interference plays, really seems to play a big role. And, I think that was maybe the more frustrating thing for Doug Weight, is that the group of officials got together on Monday after initially calling Anders Lee's goal a good one, and then said, no, that was goalie interference. They pushed the pad, and then Toronto didn't really change anything. And then last night they conferred, called it a goal, and again, Toronto didn't change anything. So I think he just felt the frustration of the officials not being consistent, but it's a different group of officials. And I think we've certainly seen over the years of the instant replay and goalie interference and all these things that consistency is tough to come by, especially in those review situations when it seems it could definitely go either way.
Arthur Staple is our guest. He covers the New York Islanders for NewsDay. At Stape NewsDay is how you follow him on Twitter. So we won't dwell on that because it worked out for the New York Islanders. They did get the victory in overtime. And as you mentioned, that Metropolitan Division is so clogged up with teams that are just all having pretty good seasons. The Devils probably the biggest surprise in the season. How do the Islanders take what happened last night, the comeback, and carry that forward into these final few games before the holiday break, and then keep it going afterwards with that momentum and stay away from that losing trend that they were on?
Yeah, it's you usually go into a season, and if you get off to a decent start in the first couple of months like the Islanders did, you bank some points and you're able to withstand a couple of 3-game losing streak. And really, it didn't even get to 3. It was a 2-5-1 stretch, which is not great, but certainly not the end of the world by any means. And they fell from tied for second to a little further down, and had they lost in regulation last night, would have been out of the playoff picture today. So it's pretty extreme. I think once we get into the phase of the season where the Metro teams are playing each other a bit more, I imagine you won't see all 8 teams within 6 points of each other. It's just crazy. And to think the last place team, Carolina or Philly, could be third in pretty much any other division in the league. So I think that'll start to spread out a little bit more as they start playing each other more. The Islanders really haven't seen a lot of the Metro division yet. They played the Caps a couple of times. They played Philly a couple of times, but I think everybody else has been just once, and they haven't seen the Devils yet this year. So, I think that's what they can hang on to, and also hang on to the fact that they've been really good against the Western Conference this year, and some of the better teams in the Western Conference. You look at the top 4 teams out there: LA, Vegas, Nashville, and St. Louis, and they've beaten each of them. So that's got to feel like a feather in their cap that they've been able to beat some good teams. They've even, they've beaten Tampa in their side of the ledger on the Eastern Conference. They've beaten Washington. So when they can measure up against the best teams in the league, that's got to feel good. And I think they're going into a phase now this coming week with the last 3 at home before the Christmas break. Detroit has been struggling, Anaheim has been struggling, and Winnipeg has been struggling of late. So you have to be able to take care of business against the good teams, and obviously the teams that are not playing as well also.
You've talked a lot about some of the young players on the New York Islanders who have started to take steps. Matthew Barzal has been a great story this season, but also Josh Bailey is getting an awful lot of attention, and rightfully so, since he's tied for the points lead on the New York Islanders with 40, even with John Tavares. But what has been the key to his leap forward this season?
I think a lot of it is confidence. It's not just being told that you can do this, but I think proving to yourself that you can do it. And I think that's what came for Josh Bailey last season. He'd been spotted in at times over the course of his decade with the Islanders, playing with John Tavares. He was sort of I think he was kind of Jack Capuano's safety valve. If Johnny's left wing or right wing wasn't going particularly well, he could put Josh Bailey there, and they would not necessarily produce at a high level, but certainly Bailey had worked well with Tavares. But it wasn't really a first thought in anybody's mind until last season. And once he got there, playing alongside Tavares and Anders Lee, it was genuine top line. It wasn't an emergency situation. It wasn't we'll try this for a couple weeks till 91 gets back on track. They really do work well together, and their games complement each other well. And certainly Anders Lee, fits well pretty much on any line that keeps possession of the puck. He's so strong in front of the net, and really the goal he scored last night was kind of the epitome of what his season has been. But for Bailey, I think being kind of that pass first guy, a very smart distributor, has been a huge boost because he's playing with two of the leading goal scorers in the league. But really, with his hat trick in Columbus and the first goal last night, which was a huge goal, they were down 2-0, could have gone into the intermission down 2, and that could have been a much different situation for them. But he has a neat deflection in front. 4 goals in 2 games for him is, I don't think you're going to see him keep that pace up, but the 40 points, to be on pace for not just a record season for him, but one of the higher scoring seasons for any Islander, since we're talking the Pierre Turgeon, Ziggy Palffy days, would be real impressive. And it's obviously a contract year for him, as it is for John Tavares. If Tavares ends up signing on the dotted line, I think he would want Josh Bailey there for the long haul alongside him.
The other story with the New York Islanders this year is the trade they made with the Edmonton Oilers and bringing in Jordan Eberle. Now, there was a little frustration initially, and it's far too early to declare a winner or a loser in this trade situation, but it's working out pretty well for the Islanders right now. That was a nice goal that Eberle scored to win the game for the Isles.
Yeah, he, we talk about the chemistry Josh Bailey has with John Tavares. It's very similar to the chemistry that Jordan Eberle has with Matthew Barzal. It wasn't necessarily expected. I think we've discussed this before. Jordan Eberle, when he first came in, everyone thought he was going to be Tavares' right wing, and they'd go back to their World Junior days in terms of their chemistry from a decade ago. But after a few fruitless games, Doug Waite decided that Eberle might look better with Barzal, and really since those two came together, it's been good for Jordan Eberle. But really, you've seen Matthew Barzal take his game to a really another level, and that second line has been very dangerous, and it's important for them to have a scorer on it, and that's what Jordan Eberle is. Andrew Ladd's also been good. He kind of fills that big body role, and he's been producing better than he did last season. But Eberle is the guy who's got the wheels to keep up with Barzal, and they seem to have good chemistry. I think at first when Barzal was starting to display the puck possession and vision skills that he's put to incredible use so far this year, it seemed like a lot of other players didn't really know where he was going and what he was going to do. But Jordan Eberle seems to know, and that's a big benefit for both of them.
Arthur Staple covering the New York Islanders for Newsday at Stape Newsday, to follow him on Twitter. Great stuff, and always appreciate the time, Arthur. Happy holidays, and we'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
Happy holidays to you too, Todd. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Arthur Staple from Newsday with the New York Islanders. Detroit, Anaheim, and Winnipeg coming up this week before the New York Islanders take their holiday break. Yeah, win or 2 or 3 would go a long way. It's almost like you have to win. You've got to win at least 2 out of 3 for the Islanders or for anyone to kind of keep pace with what's going on in the Metro Division. It's been so much fun to watch this year. Equally competitive is the Central Division in the West. Winnipeg and the St. Louis Blues will go again on Sunday. Jets lost the first half. They'll try to turn it around. Jeremy Rutherford covers the St. Louis Blues for The Athletic in St. Louis. He will join us after the break. Lots more to come on the Sunday edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. We'll talk Blues and Jets right after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Sunday edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis rolls on. Lots to get into in our remaining 90 minutes. Josh Cooper will join us. We'll kind of talk a little bit about the Western Conference. Luke Fox coming up from Sportsnet.ca, who did a neat piece on the 100 things I love about the NHL. And Stephen Laidlaw with his weekly visit to discuss the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5, help for you in your fantasy hockey pool. And yes, the unique strategy that we discussed last week. That was a suggestion. St. Louis Blues victorious in the first half of their home and home series on Saturday with the Winnipeg Jets, a 2-0 win. Same two teams go again in Winnipeg on Sunday. Jeremy Rutherford covers the Blues for The Athletic in St. Louis. You can follow him on Twitter at JP Rutherford, and joins us on the line now. Jeremy, this was a real grinded out kind of victory for the St. Louis Blues, a depleted lineup with a number of injured players, and they got a couple of things that they needed to score a win over Winnipeg: good goaltending and some power play production.
Terrific goaltending. Carter Hutton was excellent, 48 saves last night, and he hadn't played in 15 days. Now, he did go in a game about a week ago for 4 minutes, but that was just to take over for Jake Allen while he had a blade fix. But in terms of actually getting out there and playing a game, Todd, it had been a couple weeks, and so he was the backup for a stretch, and then he hurt his foot in practice, so he missed about 9 games total. Goes in last night and shuts down the Winnipeg Jets. They were all over the place, the Jets, early in the game. They had 30 shots midway through the game. And so if not for Carter Hutton, the Blues wouldn't have been in position to pull out the 2-0 victory, which they got with a couple power play goals.
His teammates were pretty supportive of him after the game, and understandably so when you have 40-plus saves. But there were a number of teammates that said that, you don't think of how good Carter Hutton is, or you don't get the chance to see how good he is, because Jake Allen has been so sensational for the Blues for much of this season, and Carter Hutton obviously doesn't get a lot of starts. But when he goes in, there's a solid goaltender in there, and it gives them an opportunity to win every game.
Yeah, the Blues have a great situation because for years it's been a tandem, whether it was Jarl Halak and Brian Elliott or you had Ryan Miller here for a cup of coffee, or even when it was Jake Allen, it was both he and Brian Elliott. So there's always been a tandem. I mean, I remember, the past 5 or 6 years, you go to the game and you didn't know who was going to start. But it's clear cut the past couple of years that Jake Allen is the guy and Carter Hutton is the backup. And Carter, you're right, doesn't get nearly as many starts as you'd imagine. But when he goes in, it's always a pretty good show. He started off the year 4-0, then took a couple losses, and I don't think you'd pin those losses on him. That was a stretch when the team wasn't playing well. But these guys get along great. It's a perfect relationship in terms of a starter and a backup. And as you mentioned, the guys like playing for Carter Hutton, and he gave him another reason to why last night.
An important win for the St. Louis Blues because the competitive Central Division that they're in, and Nashville has been on such a run. You want to stay close. Nashville's got a couple of games in hand on them. Rather, you want to keep the Winnipeg Jets behind you and keep a little bit of a point gap. And you're finishing up a homestand. Now the St. Louis Blues are headed out onto the road. Conveniently enough, first stop is in Winnipeg for the second half of this home and home, which should be exciting today. But you nice to finish the homestand on a positive before you head out on the road for a few games.
Well, it was, and not to get too detailed here, but they had an option. Do they start Carter Hutton last night in the first game of that home and home series, or do they give him the extra skate and start him today in Winnipeg in the second half of that home and home? And the logical thing might have been to keep Jake Allen in the net and wait until Sunday to get Carter Hutton back in there. But Mike Yeo went to Marty Brodeur, and he went to David Alexander, the goaltending coach, and of course they talked to the two goalies. And they said, hey, what's the best bet here? And they decided to go with Carter Hutton. So, Jake Allen, he's had a long stretch of games here, 7 straight games that he's played because Carter Hutton was out. So I think it was a pretty important decision to go with Carter last night. And because of what you're saying, that it was such a key game. The Blues had lost 2 in a row prior to last night. They'd only scored 1 goal in their last 2 games. The team wasn't playing well. And now you're saying, hey, we're going to rely on a guy who hasn't played in 15 days. I think that was asking a lot, and it did work out. So the Blues' first game against Winnipeg Jets last night this season come away with a win. And, of course, anytime you're playing a team the next day, it's going to be a tough one, especially after the travel for both teams back to Winnipeg. So big game. But the Blues' key decision last night, and it paid off.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice, and it'll be interesting to see what the Blues do this week, as they've got Winnipeg today, but then they play Calgary and Edmonton back-to-back Wednesday, Thursday, before finishing up with Vancouver on Saturday before the holiday break kicks in for the NHL. It was curious that I thought the same thing with Winnipeg, who started Steve Mason yesterday. So I don't know if it was Mike Yeo and company noticing that the Jets were going to start Steve Mason, or whether this was strictly an in-house decision that was made.
Yeah, I didn't know if they were winking at each other down the hallway, saying, "Back up if you go with yours." So, who knows what goes behind the Winnipeg decision? I can't speak for that, but I do know what happened behind the scenes with the Blues, and now I think it sets up for a very entertaining second game. And hey, look, the Blues come away with a 2-0 victory, but like I said, Winnipeg was all over them, and that game I felt was fairly even, if not in the favor of the Jets. The Jets had 21 second period shots, and as I mentioned, they had 30 minutes into the game, so they were a shot a minute during the game. So something breaks for them. Maybe we're talking about a Jets win, but the Blues get a power play goal from Vladimir Tarasenko, and he had been struggling offensively. That was his first power play goal in 31 games, and then later in the night they get a power play goal from Vince Dunn. So not only had the Blues not won, but the power play had been a disaster, and they were able to get that straightened out for one night. So 5-on-5, Winnipeg probably had the upper hand, and I'm sure they're going to feel that way when they get back to Winnipeg today and just say, hey, let's kind of pick up where we left off yesterday.
I suspect that there were some interesting line combinations put together yesterday for the St. Louis Blues as well, because of the injuries and the juggling that needed to take place. Also, an injury during the game yesterday was Sammy Blais, who left the game. I don't know how that's going to impact their lineup for today.
Yeah, they're, of course, the Blues are without Jaden Schwartz, and that's the big loss. This is a guy who he plays the wing, but I think he was in the Selke conversation for not only his offense, his two-way play. That's what the award is. And his teammates are saying, this guy, I realize he's not the Kopitar, the Taves, the big guy up the middle, but he certainly deserves it. So the Blues are without him for 6 weeks, 5 more weeks until he gets reevaluated with the ankle fracture. And in the meantime, they're going to have to come up with some different line combinations, as you said. And last night, the big line combination was Tarasenko, Braden Shen, first time they've played together in 8 games. And they put Magnus Pajärvi on that line, who's kind of a fourth liner. And the line worked really well. After the game, Tarasenko said, "You guys don't give Pajärvi enough credit." So I'd imagine that we'd probably see similar lines up front to what the Blues did last night. And then defensively, just some news here while I answer your question about the injuries is that they've been without Alex Pietrangelo for the past 4 games. He took a shot off the foot in the Detroit game last week. So there's a good expectation that Pietrangelo will be back in the lineup today in Winnipeg. Last night, Mike Yeo said that it was a possibility, and that typically means that we'll see Alex Pietrangelo. The Blues, in the meantime, have played well defensively without him, and it's been Colton Parayko and Joel Edmondson. Parayko playing 27, 28 minutes in the 4 games that Pietrangelo has missed. So they miss Alex Pietrangelo. They definitely need to get him back. But it was a chance for Colton Parayko to show what he can do, and really played well.
That will be a big help for the St. Louis Blues if Alex Pietrangelo can get back in, just because he brings so much, great defensively, but also generates so much offense for the St. Louis Blues from the back end. And you have to expect that Winnipeg, they played a good game yesterday, just wound up losing it 2-0 to the St. Louis Blues, but after losses now to St. Louis, losing previously to the Chicago Blackhawks, both Central Division teams, this is going to be a Winnipeg Jets team that has a lot of offensive weapons and is likely to unleash them right away in the game on Sunday against the Blues.
Well, and I'm sure you've been there, go to that rink, and it's loud to begin with, but you're right. You stack on top of that a loss to the Hawks, a loss to the Blues. Look, this Winnipeg Jets team has played so well all season long, and I think been one of the more impressive teams in the Central and in the league even. And so I would think so too. With the way they played last night and the couple losses they've taken, they're going to be behind their home crowd tonight. I think you're going to see quite a team in the Jets.
And it's been such fun to watch. I was just talking about the Metropolitan Division in the Eastern Conference, but the Central has been equally competitive out west with the St. Louis Blues, who got off to that tremendous start, even despite some injury troubles at the start of the season. Winnipeg has kind of tailed off a little bit. Nashville has been on a real surge, and even though they haven't done particularly well in their last 10 games with only 5 wins, Dallas Stars have a formidable lineup, plus Chicago, and Minnesota's done okay too. This is the great competition that we get to see all the time in the Central and the Western Conference.
It really is, and I think we felt that going into the season. I know it's when you play in the Central and you cover the Central, from my perspective, it's easy to throw out the phrase that it's the hardest division in hockey, but I think I go around the league and there's enough people in the other divisions that believe the Central is arguably the toughest. And you look at the top and there's Nashville and St. Louis, and I think what we've seen from some of these other teams, Winnipeg get off to a tremendous start. I don't want to say start because it's starting to get to that point where it's more than just a start. You're 30 games into the year. Forget about the last couple games that they've dropped. When you're 18-10-5 through 33, that's pretty good. And then Dallas, I think everybody thought on paper, Todd, that they were going to be pretty good, a major upgrade from last year, especially with the coaching coming in, Ken Hitchcock from St. Louis, and also getting the goaltender Bishop and the defense with Mathot. I know he's out injured. And then you get a help up front with Radulov. They made so many upgrades. I think it was just a matter of taking some time to get used to each other. And so this last stretch of games we've seen from Dallas, they've been a lot better. Same with Minnesota, tough start, but it seems like Boudreau's gotten playing a little bit better. Dubnyk out now, but Stalock has been picking up the load. So Blues know Minnesota firsthand, and they've played pretty well in the meetings that they've had. So you're right. I mean, you can go up and down, and when you already have a tough division with the Chicagos and with the St. Louis Blues, and then you start to add a Dallas and a Winnipeg to the mix, teams that necessarily haven't been involved the past couple of years, it just makes it even tougher than it has been in my book.
Jeremy Rutherford covering the St. Louis Blues for the Athletic St. Louis, at JP Rutherford to follow him on Twitter. Great stuff today, Jeremy. Appreciate it. Hopefully we can do it again. Happy holidays, and we'll talk again soon.
You too, sir. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later. Bye.
Appreciate it. Oh, sir. Wow. That's it. Oh, that's pretty good. Thanks to Jeremy Rutherford. That was a good game yesterday between the St. Louis Blues and the Winnipeg Jets. We'll expect another one as they head to Bell MTS Center in Winnipeg. And yeah, that building is conducive to great atmosphere, not a huge crowd, but everybody's into it. A lot of knowledgeable hockey fans. Winnipeg, we're going to be anxious to hear that goal song again, that victory celebration song. Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On. If it's working for you, that's fine. Although the Jets have gone through a bit of a slump, but that Central Division has been so much fun. Nashville's up on top now. They have the same number of points as the St. Louis Blues, but they have played 2 fewer games. Then it's Winnipeg, a few points behind. Dallas at 38. Chicago, Minnesota tied at 37 points. Yeah, 9 points separating top spot to, well, we'll just kind of leave Colorado out, but that's an awesome division. By the way, it's a good opportunity, since we're talking about the Central, to mention our book of the month once again from Mark Lazarus, who was with us a couple of weeks ago talking about his book, If These Walls Could Talk, chronicles the Chicago Blackhawks and their run through their Stanley Cup championships as the young talent came together, Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, and others. Some great stories in the book. You can find out a little bit more of it on our website, hockeyunfiltered.com. Click through, make the purchase, check out the list of Todd's favorite things as well. If there's still a little holiday shopping that you need to do, just click through, do a little online shopping. It's easy if you go straight through our website, hockeyunfiltered.com. Lots of hockey-themed things, but also some other great things that I have found in the, once again, very successful annual list of Todd's favorite things. Lots to get to as Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. The Sunday program continues. A lot of stories from games yesterday with 11 on the schedule. Haven't talked much about the NHL 100 outdoor game. We'll start to dive into that in our next segment. There's a lot of stuff going on with the Sens and their team. So we'll talk about some of the good and the fun and also some of the stupid that's gone on over the last few days as well. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with more after the break.
So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. The problem? All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff, the Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Nova Product Design is designed for manufacturing. Nova Product Design can get the job done with mechanical and industrial design. Nova Product Design is also fully functional for laser cutting, water jet cutting, plating, coatings, and more. Nova Product Design, innovative design and the latest technologies. Nova Product Design can design, build, and test any required types of prototypes and beta units. Visit novaproductdesign.com. We're looking for your Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day nominations every Saturday. Now you can send them through Instagram. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo of your dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate them as the HU Dog of the Day. Include your name, the dog's name, and any other cool details you want. We choose a winner and add them to the Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day.
Welcome back. This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Sunday edition, here every Saturday and Sunday beginning at 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. We are live at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, available for download through the App Store, live on Facebook, on YouTube Live, on Periscope. And you can check out our podcast as well by subscribing through iTunes, iHeartRadio, and yes, on the Hockey Unfiltered app. Includes, of course, our little Saturday podcast. They drop in the middle of the week. It's a bit of weekend in the middle of the week. That's why we call it the Little Saturday Podcast. They hit about mid-afternoon Eastern time on Wednesday. It's just a little midweek hockey talk, help carry you through if any big stories are going on in the NHL. Always good to carry the conversation through. Check out our Facebook page as well for all kinds of interesting stuff. Mentioned it was a busy Saturday in the NHL with a couple of afternoon games. I like the afternoon contest with Edmonton and Minnesota. Good game, close game. The Oilers wind up victorious. It was a late afternoon in the Eastern time zone start for the Boston Bruins and New York Rangers. How about them Rangers have climbed their way all the way back into the playoff picture in the Eastern Conference. Who'd have thought at the start of the season that was even possible? Struggling, mixing and matching lines, mixing and matching defensive pairs, trying to get it going. But they have, and they've managed to climb their way back into the conversation. I don't know if the same is going to happen for the Ottawa Senators, but hey, they've won back-to-back games, and that's good. It was the big party on Saturday night, the end of the year-long celebration for the NHL 100th anniversary. Great job by the league with so many events, so many things going on with the NHL 100, controversial, if you will, because there's always going to be a discussion and a debate about which players should or shouldn't be included and all kinds of stuff. It was great. Big celebration, really good job by the league trying to highlight as many moments and accomplishments of teams and players over the first 100 years. Really good. Not all the ideas come through and resonate with everyone. There was the online fan voting of the NHL's greatest moment for the first 100 years, and the award was presented to Mario Lemieux last night in Ottawa for his scoring of 5 goals, 5 different ways in 1988 versus the Devils. This is one of the things that it didn't necessarily really stick with me. It's like, okay, it's great that you have the 100 moments and highlighting them and acknowledging them and recognizing them. That's good. But you didn't list the top 100 players from 1 through 100 because, you didn't want to get into that sort of thing. And I didn't know if we needed to necessarily have a bracketed fan voting, not a contest, but a fan voting process for the 100 moments of the NHL. All right. We certainly didn't need one for the greatest uniform of the NHL where you pick 100 different jerseys and uniforms and you have to have a fan vote. I don't know. That just doesn't seem to hit with me. Understand that you want to overload with content and ideas. Sure. All right. It's fine. Not all of them hit with everybody, but it does with some. Okay. But the game, the outdoor game, the NHL 100 game, that was the big finale, the big rounding up of the year-long celebrations that took place in Ottawa with the Senators playing the Montreal Canadiens. They played the first game in the NHL nearly 100 years to the day. Of course, you got to have it on Saturday because it's a weekend. It's a big thing. The actual anniversary is on the 19th. But it was everything that it should be. It was everything that it was supposed to be. It was the outdoor games that we've come to enjoy over the last decade or so in the National Hockey League. Man, was it cold. Oh my goodness, it was cold. Kyle Bukauskas from Sportsnet, who was with us yesterday teeing up the game, you could see how cold it was and for everyone outside. But good for them. It's tough working outside in the elements like that. Thank you to all who persevered, the on-air talent, the behind the scenes, the technical staff, and all the people that work so hard. Good for you. When it was minus 20 Celsius, that's like single digits Fahrenheit, it was darn cold. So thank you to all of those who worked so hard to make that outdoor game a success. It was pretty good. It's kind of what you expected. As I've seen and mentioned a few times on the program, the game itself wasn't that great, wasn't that captivating. If they weren't playing it outside, it'd be like, gee, I'm watching these two teams skate up and down and there's no score and we're getting into the late stages of the second period and this is not really all that dramatic or exciting. but it's outside. It's the celebration. It's the whole NHL 100 and the Canada 150 celebration as well. It's the 150th year of Confederation in Canada. They have Bryan Adams come out and perform. I mean, that's about as Canadian as you can get. I understand that, but it is the celebration for the National Hockey League and their 100 years. And I mentioned this yesterday. I think it's just awful that the NHL Network in US has basically ignored that. You don't even send anyone. They'll send a whole bunch of people to the game January 1st and the other outdoor games. Oh, send people to Canada for the outdoor game. I think that's terrible. Oh, how could we do that? Well, you do that because that's how you serve your fans. That's how you acknowledge the 100th anniversary of your league. And I think it's a real mistake and a real missed opportunity. It's a shame that they basically ignored that celebration. I'm really stunned. Yeah, it's 2 Canadian teams, but this is where your league started. Ridiculous. But the Ottawa Senators got a victory. That's back-to-back wins because they defeated the Rangers on Wednesday. Then they get the win in the outdoor game against the Montreal Canadiens. Okay, that's 2. Is this going to be the start of something for the Ottawa Senators? I don't know. So much noise, so much nonsense surrounding the Senators that was leading up to this game. Must have been almost impossible for the players to enjoy this. I mean, just the distractions and the questions. It's a game. You want 2 points. It's really important in their standings, especially with the kind of year that the Senators have had. But you sure want them to enjoy these things as well. And I think most of the players did on both sides, both the Canadiens, even though they lost the game, and the Ottawa Senators, who have going through such a hard time. I think most of the players did manage to enjoy the process and enjoy the game. Sens captain Erik Karlsson, yeah, he sure did. He was caught on camera. There was a couple of GIFs out about this, and there's a couple of stories that he was doing some sort of weird clapping and pointing thing on the bench. I don't know if it was with one of the other coaches or somebody else on the bench. It's a really strange thing, but he's like clapping his hands and he's pointing, and I don't know. He looked like he was having a good time. And you know what? If you're the captain of the team, you're the leader of the team, that's a great way to lead by example. If you're having fun and you're enjoying yourself and it's loose and fun and relaxed up on the bench, then everybody else stops thinking about all the pressure. Everybody else can kind of focus on what's going on. But Karlsson was loose and having a great time at the game. I think he blocked about 10 shots. Most of them with his injured foot or surgically repaired foot, ankle, whatever it was. And he just kept blocking the shot off the same foot. And there was actually one point where they caught him on camera and he said, "I can't believe my foot is so sore." But for all the drama that the Sens have gone through, all the questions leading up to this game, there was so much taken away from the game and the celebration itself. It's frustrating. But as we wake up on Sunday and look at the standings, Ottawa is only 6 points behind the Boston Bruins for 3rd spot in the Atlantic Division. Now, that is a good chunk of points, but it is not impossible to overcome that deficit in a little over half a season. The Ottawa Senators, as we saw last season, when they play smart, when they play disciplined, when they're structured, when they adhere to the system of Guy Boucher, they play well and they win a lot of games. Who's to say it won't happen again moving forward? Going to be interesting to see how they proceed going forward in this one. Back-to-back wins, a big emotional win in the outdoor game. If they had lost on Saturday night, well, there would have been the usual shoulder slump. Here we go again. But they won, and that's back-to-back victories. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to the Sens moving forward. We're up against it at the top of the clock. We'll get into all the nonsense that's going on with the Senators coming up at the top of the next hour. Josh Cooper will also join us. Luke Fox from Sportsnet.ca coming up. And Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, with this week's Fantasy 5, #Fantasy 5. All that and much more. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. Hour number 2, right after the break.
The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Being on the World Wide Web is great. Being found is the tricky part. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization is the only way your business can get a leg up on the competition. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. For the necessary tools to make your business stand out in a crowded marketplace, 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday.
This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
Oh, a busy first hour and a lot to get into in hour number 2. We had 11 games on Saturday, one of them outdoors. Much more on that in the Sens coming up. 4 more today, including the second half of the home and home between the St. Louis Blues and the Winnipeg Jets. We'll talk about the games coming up. Alex Pietrangelo is back in, by the way. Oh, good games on the schedule. Lots to talk about. Josh Cooper based out west. We will talk a lot about the West, the California teams. How about Nashville? My goodness, are they ever on a roll. Luke Fox from Sportsnet.ca will join us. He did a piece a couple of days ago, the 100 things I love about the NHL right now. We'll talk about that, some of the fun, some of the nice things, some of the positive about the NHL, because I'm about to rip into the stupidity that's gone on in the NHL and the Ottawa Senators drama that's taken place over the last few days. And before the hour is out, Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, with this week's Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5. Help for you in your fantasy hockey pool. Yes, a little update on the Costanza strategy as well that Steve mentioned or suggested I might try last week. I was having such a terrible week last week. He said, you might want to try the Costanza strategy. Do the opposite. Mixed results. We'll give you that. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. We're live at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, powered by Primetime Radio, here every Saturday, every Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, and a lot to get into. As Mitch, it was 11 games, some good games, some dramatic wins. The Rangers defeat the Boston Bruins in overtime. The Rangers have climbed back into the playoff picture. Islanders come back from a deficit against the LA Kings. They win in overtime. Philadelphia Flyers keep on winning after they couldn't stop losing. 10 losses. They've now got 6 straight victories. Carolina guts out a win against the Columbus Blue Jackets, 2-1. Caps come back and win in overtime, down 2 to the Anaheim Ducks in the third period. No sweat. We'll get 2. We'll tie it up. Then in overtime, Alex Ovechkin looking to pound the puck in. He's waiting on teammates. The puck deflects. An Alex Ovechkin slap shot, of course, but it gets by John Gibson. It's in the net. He's got 23. He is even with Nikita Kucherov for the league lead. He's not that far away from 600. He could get to 600 this year. And as I mentioned, the Nashville Predators keep rolling on. Tampa Bay Lightning victorious 6-5 over the Colorado Avalanche, had a big lead, gave it up, hung on to get the victory. No word on Eric Johnson, the idiot defenseman of the Colorado Avalanche, who sent Vlad Nemestikov tumbling headfirst into the boards as of yet, and whether or not he will get further discipline. Got 2, 5, and a game misconduct. Got 2 for the wicked slash, 5 for boarding, and then the misconduct. He should get more. He should be offered an in-person hearing. That was an attack. It wasn't a chop or a bad hit or a bad play. It was an attack, and I think he should be suspended significantly for it. Just before the hour, I was talking about the Senators, the outdoor game, the celebration of the NHL 100 that kind of came to a conclusion last night. The year-long celebration, so much done, and it was all supposed to come to a great conclusion with the outdoor celebration of Montreal playing Ottawa and the first game of the National Hockey League almost 100 years ago to the day. But there was so much other noise going on around this game. It was hard to get focused on the game and the celebration itself. The Sens, prior to the last 2, which they have now won, they were terrible underachievers. Fans were disappointed after playing to nearly getting into a Stanley Cup berth a year ago, playing in the Eastern Conference Final, coming so close. There's been wild speculation about trades or changes. It was all reaching a fever pitch. Then, of course, Erik Karlsson gets asked about his contract, which expires a year and a half from now. And he said it's business. He expects to be paid for his talents. This, of course, was all spurred by the Drew Doughty stuff. Meanwhile, of course, there's disappointment with the performance of the team. The fans have stayed away. Can't really blame them, can you? Not playing particularly well. Why am I going to schlep out there and go see the team? This after the Sens didn't sell out some of their playoff games last year. Now, the owner, Eugene Melnyk, said emphatically, I am not selling the team. When asked, pressed further, and his comments are snipped and not read and explained fully, he says if it turns into a disaster of money losing, he would consider moving the team. Okay, so that's enough to cue the stupidity and nonsense that we've seen. I'm so bent out of shape about this because it took away from the game, and it's just so much nonsense that's created by media hysterical media and trying to be clickbait relevant. There's some people that were talking about and thinking that the hashtag Melnyk out trending on Twitter was actually relevant to this debate. Loudmouths are yelling if the fans don't show up, they could move, you got to show up. Slow your roll for a minute. Let's not get caught up in the speculative nonsense. You can't just say, oh, we're going to move, and that's it. If you take owner Eugene Melnyk's comments out of context and don't read them fully or hear them fully, you get a great headline that people click on. And that's what was being pushed out. If you listen to his answer, which is presented as a hypothetical, Eugene Melnyk says, if it is a total disaster, and yes, I'm losing millions of dollars, then I would consider moving the team. He is not going to lose a lifetime's worth of money after a lifetime's worth of hard work on a hockey team. He would consider it. That's what he said. That's not what was pushed out front, though. You don't just move an NHL franchise. Oh, but it makes a good headline. Melnyk says he might move. And if you've completely had your head up we'll say your head in the sand. Did you notice how serious the league was about this? About moving franchises and that possibility. See Arizona Coyotes as Exhibit 1. Grow up. Don't be stupid. Don't be caught up in the manufactured controversy. Yes, that is our favorite phrase for 2017. And one group actually got a comment from the commissioner about such things. Good for TSN, for Brent Wallace, for Frank Saravelli, to actually get a comment from the commissioner who said, you don't just move franchises. All you got is the same noisy, mouthy people speculating, oh, well, Senators can move. Oh, Melnyk can move. And then you get the group that wants to pile on and say, he's been too cheap to spend to the salary cap. He's outspoken. You're right. He is. He's a billionaire. He can afford to be. But you know what, Sens fans? You need him way more than he needs you. He's got $1 billion in his pocket. He can do anything he wants with it. At the moment, he wants to own a hockey team. And thankfully for you, he does. You're the better for it. Think there would be a big lineup for people to buy that team in the current set of circumstances that the Ottawa Senators find themselves in? How long do you think that lineup would be? Not very long. Bad arena arrangement and location, limited revenue streams. How long a line do you think that's really going to be to sign up and say, yeah, sure, I'll contribute tens of millions of dollars every year to this team? Sens haven't been very good this year. That's true. And you've got a right to stay away. But I haven't heard nearly enough discussion about Erik Karlsson and his health. He was seriously injured last year, played through it in the playoffs, off-season surgery, missed part of the start of the season. He's not 100%. And he played more than half the game last night. Remember, he suffered that severed Achilles. How long did it take him to come back? Everybody was wild because he came back early, wasn't nearly himself. It wasn't until the next year that he started to get it back. He's not close to himself and won't be until next year. Without such a big part of your team in top form, you're going to struggle. Yeah, I know they made changes. I know Mathod is gone, and I know Clark MacArthur is gone and all that. But you know what? That's your captain. That's the guy. He's not at near 100%. But this nonsense that is being pushed out and speculated and said, oh, you should be worried, look out. Do I agree with how Eugene Melnyk conducts himself or all the comments he makes? No. But he can. He owns the team. Sens are one of the parties building to try and develop a new arena project downtown. They came into the league 25 years ago and made just about every wrong decision you could, including putting that building 20 miles outside of town. 30 kilometers if you prefer. Oh, and when they built it, there wasn't even an exit off the highway. So that's what you started with, and that's the building you're still in. But you're griping about Eugene Melnyk, who says, I've been investing a lot of money, and we got to start seeing some of it coming back. Melnyk was the guy who rescued the team in 2003, came in, bought the team and the building. How big was the lineup to do that in 2003? Not very long. Oh, but he doesn't spend to the cap. Limited resources, limited amounts, limited revenue streams. Tried to get a casino built, generate some more revenue. Got denied. We're going to try and get a new building closer to downtown. And maybe some reasonable public transit. Right now, it's an adventure to go to a game in Ottawa. Contract still hasn't been awarded for that new building. He's hoping they're looking at plan B if necessary. Yes, he'd like a new building. Yes, he'd like more fans to come to the game and not have to put more of his own money into it. What's so unreasonable about that? If this propping up the team to the tune of millions of dollars each year continues to the point of disaster, he might consider moving. What's so unreasonable about that? Some guy who's worked hard and earned $1 billion and he bought the team in 2003 and has supported them since. You're right. He's not the most generous with payroll, but he's in the top half. Oh, well, he should just spend to the cap. Who cares about the cost? He does. You got to start having some money coming back. You can't just be plowing money into it. It's not it's a business. When you make a purchase, I don't care if it's big or small, do you not want to get the best deal? If you are buying something, a significant purchase in particular, purchasing a car, purchasing appliances, purchasing a home, do you not try to negotiate and guess the best deal? Do you not want to try and get the best deal? Negotiate. That's what he's doing. He's trying to negotiate the best deal. When asked about the possibility of moving as a hypothetical, he said, if it's a disaster and money losing for years, I might have to consider it. But this nonsense that's being pushed out is, oh, got to worry, got to concern. Garbage. Media-generated, manufactured controversy. Don't get sucked up by it. Oh, he's a billionaire and he wants the public to pay for his building. That's not true. He's trying to get the best deal possible. Any company looking for a new building does that. Amazon is looking to build a new headquarters. They've been taking bids and presentations from cities that want them to come there. It's the same thing. Eugene Melnick is looking for the best possible deal to get out of his bad arena that's in a bad location that he's had to live with for better than a decade. And he's continued to prop up the team in the meantime. That's the big part. Oh, look out, the team's going to move. Oh, he won't spend to the cap. He's cheap. No, he's not. He's been propping up the team. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow. Todd at hockeyunfiltered.com is the email. Some positive hockey things. I want to talk about the good things in the NHL. Luke Fox did a nice piece on sportsnet.ca. We'll talk about that coming up. Stephen Laidlaw coming up with the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5, and Josh Cooper as well. Little West Coast talk coming up next. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Look, we know it happens. Life gets in the way and sometimes you can't catch the live edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. But we've made it easy for you to catch up on the show you might have missed. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis is available as a podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Blog Talk Radio. You don't want to miss an episode. If you missed the live show, check out the podcast. Don't miss any shows. There's a test coming up later. Subscribe now. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Use the code Get the Savings. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis listeners save with Seat Giant and the promo code TODD. That's TODD at SeatGiant.com. Just log on to SeatGiant.com to find the best tickets to NHL games, concerts, or whatever you want and save. Use the promo code TODD. That's TODD when you check out and you save. Canadian listeners can save at SeatGiant.ca. That's SeatGiant.com and .ca. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design, industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more.
Welcome back. This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, the Sunday edition, here Saturdays and Sundays, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, live at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, powered by Primetime Radio. at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. Stephen Laidlaw coming up with the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5. Luke Fox from sportsnet.ca also to join us on the program. He is left coast based. We'll talk a little bit about the West because there's some good stories happening out West. Follow him on Twitter at Joshua Cooper, covering the National Hockey League for a number of outlets. Josh Cooper joins us. Hey, Josh, there are so many good stories about what's happening out West. I think everybody is a little bit surprised at Anaheim that they were able to survive their injury situation as well as they have. But don't look now. They're knocking on the door of a playoff spot in the Western Conference.
Well, the one thing with Anaheim that always kind of is how they sort of do stuff is they're just so good at drafting. They're so good at developing. And I think that's a major with how they're able to survive these injuries is because they just keep bringing guys up who are at least NHL type players, and they come in, they're in their system, and they play relatively well. And I think there was a stat, I think it was something like once I forgot who it was played in a certain game, they had every single player they drafted in the 2011 draft played an NHL game, which was unbelievable. But they're just so good at player development. They're so good at drafting that I personally, I was not surprised to see them stay afloat just because of how good they are at doing this. I mean, that's kind of what they have to do because, yes, even though they've been able to spend a little bit more money the last few years, they aren't a capped team, and they're not one of these teams that is just able to kind of just spend as much money as they can, and then if a player doesn't work out, you just stash him in the minors and still pay him or whatever. I mean, they don't kind of employ these tactics. They have to be very careful with how they spend their money. And part of what their formula is they just draft and develop really well. So when all these guys went down, I just thought to myself, okay, they'll probably stay afloat because they have so many good backs and so many players in their system. And then guys start to come back, then they'll be in pretty good shape where they are right now. Though Ryan Getzlaf comes back and Corey Perry goes out. So I mean, it's just one of these things where they're one of these organizations that can just draft and develop really well, and that leads to their ability to, when they have injuries, because every team goes through injuries, they're able to kind of just still be a very good hockey team at least and stay afloat. And you're seeing kind of how they're able to turn it on now that they're starting to get a little bit healthier.
And that's another great example of drafting and developing well and bringing talent in. Gives you a lot of depth like the Anaheim Ducks have on defense, and it allows you to make deals like the Adam Henrique deal for Sami Vatanen. A lot of depth, a lot of good young defensemen, but there was a greater need at the forward position, and Adam Henrique has been a terrific fit for the Ducks.
Well, he's been a terrific fit for the Ducks, and you mentioned sort of the ability to trade Sami Vatanen. I mean, that's and they have a guy like Brandon Montour who's able to come up and just be a phenomenal, or I guess I wouldn't say phenomenal praise, but an excellent defenseman at the NHL level, and that gives them the flexibility to trade someone like Sami Vatanen who's making 4 times as much as what a guy like Brandon Montour is making, and then you're able to bring in someone like Adam Henrique and give yourself some depth at center. And I think there were some questions when they brought in Henrique of, what's your plan? Why are you bringing in another center? It's like, well, that's basically how you're able to win in this league is to have a lot of depth at center. And so you bring in Adam Henrique, and now all of a sudden you have this essential, when everyone's healthy, 3-headed monster of Ryan Getzlaf, Ryan Kessler, and Adam Henrique, and you throw Antoine Vermette in there, and you probably have the deepest team down the middle in the NHL when everyone's healthy. So, and that's, again, part of it where you mentioned the fact that you have all this depth. You can then deal from a position of strength where you can trade someone like Sami Vatanen and bring in Adam Henrique. And really, it's not really a net loss off your D because you have so many young players who are in San Diego, who are in, who are kind of on the lower ends of the depth chart in Anaheim, who are ready, who even though they're on the lower ends of the depth chart, are able to step up and actually play. And I think that's sort of where that team is and how they're able to make those types of trades.
Josh Cooper is with us covering the National Hockey League from the West Coast. At Joshua Cooper is how you follow him on Twitter. Let's shift down the freeway, talk for a second about the Los Angeles Kings, who are on the road in the Northeast and have suffered their 3rd straight loss after a nice long 8-game winning streak. Now, it's easy to get bent out of shape about 3 straight losses, but it's not uncommon to lose a few games after winning a whole bunch of games. I don't know that there's a big concern for the Los Angeles Kings. They're still a pretty good team.
I think there's always concern when you lose a few games in a row, but it is a long season, and these things do happen. And plus, the Kings have a really good stopper in goal, and Jonathan Quick. By stopper, I mean he's a guy who I know what a goaltender is versus a stopper, but I mean, but he can stop a losing streak just because he can bring out an incredible performance and probably just kind of slow down this kind of losing stretch. I've just seen it so many times in the NHL where you have a great goaltender and he can do that. And the team, yes, I mean, they've lost a few games in a row, but they really do legitimately seem to be back this year, playing at a level that they've played, years ago before kind of they went through this slow slog of after their 2014 Stanley Cup of missing the playoffs 2 or 3 years. I mean, they're playing with pace. They're playing with speed. They're getting in the middle of the ice. I mean, it's a bit of a different style under John Stevens and Daryl Sutter, but the key is that their best players are being their best players. And I don't know if you had that situation when they weren't making the playoffs 2 or 3 years. It just seemed like a lot of the performances were uneven. It just seems like everyone's on the same page. Most importantly, everyone's having a great time. I mean, you walk in that locker room and players are smiling. Players seem happy. I mean, granted, winning does that, but I remember seeing that when I went into the locker room before the season started, and it was just a much looser feel and a looser vibe, and guys just seemed like they were looking forward to the season. They were looking forward to playing this more offensive style under John Stevens, and I think that they're relishing in it, and I think that they're excelling in it, and I think that they look like certainly a team to be reckoned with. And when you have a guy like Anze Kopitar playing at the level he's playing, Drew Doughty, to me, who, in my opinion, is the best two-way defenseman in the NHL. His offensive numbers are certainly picked up this year under John Stevens, as I thought they would. Jake Muzzin's had an incredible bounce-back season. Jonathan Quick's been incredible. I mean, yes, again, they've lost 3 games in a row, but they're playing. All their top players are playing at a high level. And I think that's a major ingredient for success.
Okay, so we should complete the California trifecta. The San Jose Sharks find themselves in 3rd place in the Pacific Division. I think they've been okay, and I think they've had a decent season so far, but I think they're kind of a little bit of a work in progress still. They're still looking for a little more goal scoring from a few of their young players in particular.
Well, I actually really like their team, and it's in part because they just play such a strong defensive system overall. They're very committed. Peter DeBoer, I feel like he never gets enough credit for the type of, I don't know, he just has his finger on the pulse of what that team wants, what that team needs. And he's had that ever since he's gotten there. Everyone has completely bought into what he does. And I think that they have completely shifted their style from being sort of a kind of puck houndish, so to speak, system under Todd McClellan, where they would just fire so many shots at the net and then try to just corral all the rebounds and put them in. I think that they've sort of shifted that to being a little bit more puck possession-ish, so to speak, under Peter DeBoer, taking care of your own end a little bit better. Part of that does have to do with the fact that you have an elite goaltender for the first time in ages there, probably since Evgeny Nabokov and Martin Jones. And I think that I really like their team. I mean, I see a lot of similarities, honestly, with this team and what they've been able to do this year compared to the team that made the Stanley Cup final a few years ago. And I really like their group. They're just a very sound hockey team. They win all the games they need to win. Yes, they have some losses every now and then, but ultimately, I think that they're just a very, I wouldn't say consistent because they've had some bad games here and there, but overall they just seem to have that. They just have this, I don't know, they have this sort of quality about them where when there is a game that they have to win, they go in there and they win it. And it just reminds me a lot of that team that made the Cup final in 2016, where during the regular season, heading into the playoffs, they just seem to know when to pick up their games. And I really like this team a lot. I personally think that they're certainly a group to be reckoned with, kind of as you head towards the postseason, because I think that they play that kind of style that can really lend to a lot of success in the playoffs.
And one more, if I can, just before I let you go, Josh. The darlings of the West are the expansion Vegas Golden Knights. 42 points after 31 games back at home and set to face the Florida Panthers this evening. I mean, they have exceeded, I think, everyone's expectations in terms of what they've been able to accomplish this year. And I'm anxious to see how they move through the schedule. Their schedule gets a lot tougher in February and March, but they are a very good story right now in the NHL.
Well, and that's the thing too, is no matter what happens, the rest and their success in their market, their success probably in the eyes of the league, their success nationally in the national sports landscape, international if you include Canada. I mean, as you said, they exceeded expectations so far. They've really inspired sort of an area that pro sports can work in Las Vegas. As everybody expected, their home record is incredible. I wonder why, but they really no. But I mean, really, it's like they're beyond sort of the joke of like players going out. There's just a lot to do in Las Vegas. Like in the night before a game, you can go to a show, you can do this. It's probably a lot of distractions. I mean, we're all humans, and we all have to sort of deal with that. And they live there, so to them it's normal. But they're a really fun hockey team to watch. Gerard Gallant has been able to coax some incredible performances out of players who never really performed before in their career. Like William Karlsson has been just an absolute dynamite player for them this year, and all the goaltenders that they've had to go through, and that they still keep winning. I mean, it's really been remarkable. And one of the, my initial thought on Vegas when they started out and winning, I was like, well, the NHL is such a coaching heavy league right now. No one has a pre-scout on them. So that's why they're able to win, because they're able to catch other teams off guard. But now you're at a point where they're still winning, and you can't really use that excuse. So this is a good hockey team. They work hard. They seem motivated. They have an incredible home ice advantage, and they're using it, and they're winning a lot of games. So good for them. It's been a great story for the NHL, and honestly, I mean, you hear the league talking about expansion coming out of the Board of Governors. I think the incredible success you've seen out of Vegas this year has led to kind of a thought process that maybe we were too cautious on expansion, that we should explore this in certain markets a little more. And it certainly seems that the way that they've played, the way that everyone has sort of gravitated towards them, it's been the best story of the NHL this year so far, without question.
Josh Cooper governed the National Hockey League from the West Coast, at Joshua Cooper to follow him on Twitter. Great stuff today, Josh. I really appreciate it. Happy holidays, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
Great. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh Cooper, covering the National Hockey League. It's going to be interesting to see what Vegas does in the second half. As I mentioned, their schedule gets a lot tougher in the latter part of the season. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. Fantasy5, hashtag Fantasy5 with Stephen Laidlaw coming up before the hour is out. In our next segment, the 100 things I like about the NHL. Luke Fox did a cool piece on sportsnet.ca. We'll talk about that and much more all straight ahead. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back after the break.
There's special savings for Hockey Unfiltered listeners with our new ticket partner, Seat Giant. And Canadian fans can also purchase in Canadian dollars. Go to SeatGiant.ca, find the tickets you're looking for. Doesn't matter if it's NHL games, concerts, or any other event. You get a special discount with the promo code TODD. That's Todd with 2 Ds. Just enter the code, get the discount, you save. That's simple. Save on your next ticket purchase with Hockey Unfiltered and Seat Giant. The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Search engine optimization is the key to success for your online business. It can be the key to success for any business. 1-844-SEO-LEAD is the number to call to get your business at the top of all searches. An official partner of Google, they have the tools necessary to make your business the one people notice first. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now you can nominate your dog or any dog you love as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day through Instagram. Every Saturday, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis will take your nominations for the Dog of the Day. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo with the dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate your dog. We choose a winner at the end of the show, and your dog will be recognized in the HU Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more.
Welcome back. It's Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Sunday edition here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. Up to the top of the hour, we'll have our regular weekly visit from Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com. Happy to welcome back to the program. It's been a while since he's been here, but he did a really cool piece on sportsnet.ca that I wanted to talk about and highlight. Luke Fox Jukebox, at Luke Fox Jukebox is how you follow him on Twitter. And Luke Fox joins us from covering the NHL for Sportsnet.ca. Luke, I suspect this all had to do with the NHL 100, and this was just kind of a fun theme that you could pick 100 different things that you like and think are pretty cool about the current National Hockey League.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Thanks for having me back, Todd. So I just find, a lot of times in our job, sometimes as hockey writers, we try to find problems and pick apart the things that are going wrong and look for controversies or dissecting the things that aren't going so well with the struggling teams. And those generally get a lot of interest from readers. But in honor of the 100th anniversary of the league, I tried to put a positive spin on and look at the 100 things that I actually really love about the game as it is right now. And I actually had to cut the list down. There were a lot of them.
Well, yeah, I can imagine. Now, you can pick out, one of the individual 100 things, but what got to me as I was going through this list, I just kind of go down and down, and I'm looking, I went, oh yeah, I like that, because it would trigger a memory in my head of whatever the item happened to be, whether it's throwback jerseys, for instance, number 84 on your list. You think of a great throwback jersey, like the ones the St. Louis Blues wore in their outdoor game with that cool, nice blue color. And I thought, oh yeah, it triggers memories for me. And that's what I thought was so neat about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny you mentioned that. A guy I played shinny with has that jersey, and I went up to him. I was like, "Oh my goodness, I love that jersey." The Blues one was perfect. Another one that I really like is the throwback Kings jersey. The purple and gold with the big crown. But just these little things about the game and the culture around the game. Some of the guys' personalities, like I love the fact that Phil Kessel filled the Stanley Cup up with hot dogs this summer, and with it, so there's just some of them are funny, some of them are just kind of move you. One of the ones I put in there was that moment between when the ref calls for a penalty shot, but it hasn't been taken yet. Just that anticipation of the game is stopped, all the attention's on the shooter and the goalie, and something great could happen for one of these teams, and just like that feeling you get. And 3-on-3 overtime is another thing. Some of the rule changes the NHL has made get criticized, and some of it's justified. But the introduction of 3-on-3 overtime, like when you're at a game live and that starts, it's hard to sit down. It's just so thrilling. So I just wanted to highlight some of these the greater moments that kind of tug at your emotions or spark a memory.
Absolutely, I agree with you with all of those. That the penalty shot being called. There's even the hesitation sometimes when the whistle is blown and the play is coming to a halt, and everyone focuses on the referee just to wait and see if he is going to point to center ice or whether he is going to make the call. And yeah, then there's that anticipation, the so-called most exciting play in hockey, where everyone looks at the player who's lined up for the penalty shot. And I like that some of them are kind of fun, kind of tongue in cheek and poking fun at the game itself too, in terms of the hockey culture. Like the one I keep giggling at when I would go up and down the list, as I have a few times, is game time decisions. And it just kind of points to the whole silliness of injuries, and whether it's upper body, lower body, or mid body injuries is a few that have been introduced, but there's a little poking of fun at the game too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have to poke fun at it because some of the little intricacies around the games, or some of the things coaches say, or the tactics are a bit silly when you step back and look at it. Yeah, and as far as game time decisions, it's just like, you see 5 to 10 reporters tweeting out, he's on the ice for warm-ups, and then he's in. Like, you just get bombarded, and we could be talking about, the sixth defenseman, but that kind of breathless anticipation for whether a guy's going to play game 34 of the regular season is, kind of entertaining to me.
Luke Fox is our guest. Did a piece on sportsnet.ca, the 100 things I love about the NHL right now. At Luke Fox Jukebox is how you follow him on Twitter. And another item on the list talks about and illustrates how the game has changed in the sense of how we consume it. And that is having commentators between the benches at ice level. A fairly recent addition, but it's brought something new to how the game is presented. I don't know if it's going to continue forever, because we see guys get clipped by sticks and stuff every now and again, but that's brought a new element of bringing the game to the fans.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of interesting because they're in the thick of it, and they're actually at risk of it, like, because they could get hit by an errant stick or puck that's flying out of bounds. But then they also are able to pick up, some of the chatter amongst players or between coaches and players. And I like having that extra layer of insight into the game. Same thing. Another one I mentioned was mic'd up refs. I love the montages that the league or some teams will occasionally put out of, and you hear the interactions between players and refs. And it's not always full of animosity. Some of it's a kind of friendly banter, or they give them little heads up or warnings, like, okay, I'll let you go with that one, but cut it out. I just love that these sounds of the game, like up close, that you don't get even if you're in the building, but sitting far away. So things like that give you a little window into it, just like they did in the 24/7. Like, I find the most fascinating scenes from those docuseries are the ones that are on the ice, and you hear the coaches, you hear the players, you hear the refs. I just love that little window into what's actually going on.
And while the battles on the ice and between teams are intense, they're serious, they're dramatic at times, and everybody's fighting, trying to get those 2 points or move on in a playoff series, whatever state you're at in the season. A new addition as well has been team battles between one another, but on Twitter, number 43 on the list. And I love that there's still a sense of humor and reality that's creeping into the game that way.
Yeah, exactly. I think the LA Kings probably kicked it off a few years back when they took a shot after they eliminated the Canucks and kind of told the rest of Canada, "You're welcome."
Yeah.
It kind of opened people's eyes and said, okay, just because it's a corporate account doesn't mean you have to be stuffy. Doesn't mean it has to just be, here are the lines. Here is, a link to our foundation. Like, you can actually have fun and you can engage. The Dallas Stars account does a good job of it. Of course, with the introduction of the Vegas Golden Knights, they've taken it to a whole new level. And it's really quite funny, but I know that so sometimes their tweets aren't always viewed as the right way by a pretty conservative hockey culture. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun when teams mix it up. I remember, I think the Discovery Channel took a shot at the Pittsburgh Penguins and they fired back. And yeah, it's just kind of adds an element of fun in this new digital age, I guess.
And I'll say that number 1 and number 100 on your list of the 100 things I love about the NHL right now are kind of related. And if you can bring the two of them together, then that would be absolutely spectacular. Number 1 being sudden death overtime, and number 100 being Game 7. A couple of really unique things about the National Hockey League and when competition is at its best.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the one thing that I think the NHL holds over all the other sports leagues is that the unique tournament to end the season. There's nothing like it. You know, you're staying up late watching a West Coast game, and it goes into triple overtime, but you know you got to work in the morning, but you can't tear yourself away to go to bed because it's just that thrilling, and the level of intensity. You know, players try to describe it, but they can't. It just goes up in the playoffs, and then it goes up that much further when it's one goal to win it all. And you know, that some of my fondest memories watching television of any kind are that, you know, just waiting for the next goal, and whether as a fan or even when it's two teams that you don't particularly have an attachment for, but just like the intensity of the game just draws you in. And you want to show people that haven't seen hockey. That's what you want to show them. Sudden death overtime.
Yeah, it's pretty special and spectacular. Luke Fox from Sportsnet.ca. The piece is the 100 things I love about the NHL right now. At Luke Fox Jukebox is how you follow him on Twitter. It's a cool piece, and I'm guessing just before I let you go, Luke, that I'm guessing you had to cut down the list. So video review was 101, right? Is that how it went?
Yeah, I thought it was a video review joke, but I'll save that for another day.
Okay. That's what I figured. That'll be the list of the top 101 things. Thanks for doing this, Luke. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks for having me on, Todd.
Luke Fox from Sportsnet.ca. It's a cool list because, as I mentioned, you just kind of think of great moments, great memories as you're watching the game and think back to times. Luke mentioned one of the items on the list is Phil Kessel putting hot dogs in the Stanley Cup, and just the number of food and beverage products that you've seen, photos and things that players have done with the Stanley Cup after working so hard to win it. That one photo represents all of the other things and all the difficulty that goes along with keeping the Stanley Cup and giving every player his opportunity. What was the one I heard? Yogurt was a really tough one to get clean out of the bowl, apparently. But it's just those moments and fun things that you think about as you read down this list. It's the 100 things I love about the NHL right now. Just remind you that it's a game and it's supposed to be fun. And sure, we find controversies and we find things that we disagree with and find things that frustrate us about the National Hockey League. And while we're talking about them and discussing them, it's not because we dislike it. It's because we want to make it better, and we're so passionate and enthusiastic about the game that we want to do everything we can to suggest ideas and move it better. And this list just kind of reminds you that, yeah, these are some of the reasons why we like the game so much. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. One more segment to go up to the top of the hour. Stephen Laidlaw will join us with this week's Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5. Help for you in the fantasy hockey pool, and we'll discuss quickly the Costanza strategy for fantasy as well. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag #HUDogoftheDay, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Final segment of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis for this week. Back again next weekend, 11 a.m. Eastern. Saturday only. We're taking Christmas Eve off, so we'll just have a Saturday show next Saturday on the 23rd of December. That's the date for Festivus. December the 23rd is the date for Festivus. Oh, we may have to have an airing of some grievances. I think that might have to happen next week. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. It's also time for our regular weekly visit from the managing editor of DobberHockey.com with this week's Fantasy 5. Hashtag Fantasy 5. Follow him on Twitter at Steve Laidlaw. And Steve joins us now. Steve, in a week ago, you were also mentioning a Seinfeld thing, and that I should perhaps consider the Costanza strategy for fantasy after my tough week last week. So I did use it a little bit, not completely, because I didn't throw away all the players I had, like Vladimir Tarasenko, but I did use it a little bit, and it helped.
Really?
Well, okay, so one specific instance. Last night, I was debating whether or not to start Scott Darling in goal. Second half of a back-to-back. Carolina just finished a long road trip. They played the night before, but I thought, nope, I'm putting him in. So I put him in. Quality start, only allows one goal against, and gets the victory. So the Costanza strategy worked there.
Absolutely. You're on the righteous path.
Okay, we'll see how much I use it this week. Let's get to this week's Fantasy 5. And name number one from Stephen Laidlaw. These are good names. These are names you want on your fantasy team for the coming week. Would be Kevin Fiala of the Nashville Predators. Had a nice goal yesterday.
Yeah, he's a fantastic player. He's not getting as many minutes as I would like, but the second line that they put together since acquiring Kyle Turris has been phenomenal. I think every single player, Turris, Fiala, and Craig Smith, have been rolling at point per game pace since Turris arrived. So, I mean, that's, we're talking about over a month's worth of really productive play. It's impossible to ignore at this point. Yeah, supremely talented player, great line. That Nashville team's rolling over teams at this point.
Name number two on the Fantasy 5 this week is Daniel Sedin. The Vancouver Canucks have had their struggles, but Daniel Sedin, as you've written here, is riding the Brock Bess monster back to relevance. Very good.
Yeah, I mean, injuries up front. They lost 2/3 of their top line. So Brock Bess monster is kind of on his own, but they've used this opportunity to start giving the Sedin twins more minutes. They're playing them with Besser at 5-on-5 and on the power play. Sedin's managed to put 9 points in the last 7 games. If you could plug them in for a spot start this weekend, that'd be a great opportunity for you. And certainly, going forward, as long as Berchi and Horvat are out, I think the Sedins are going to get a nice boost in minutes, and certainly that could make them relevant once again.
Name number 3 on the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5 from Stephen Laidlaw this week is Milan Lucic of the Edmonton Oilers. He had a nice game yesterday in the victory over the Minnesota Wild, and you think there is more good stuff to come.
Yeah, he's been rolling at about a point per game over the last month. He had a slow start to the season, but he's been really good otherwise. And, they've got him back up on the top line, skating with McDavid. He's back on the top power play unit, which is showing some signs of life. So certainly, anyone who's getting you exposure to Connor McDavid is someone worth owning. And the fact that Lucci's been on that line for a few weeks now shows that it might stick for a while longer. So certainly, he's not available to everyone, but if you dropped him early in the season, maybe time to get him back into your lineup.
Name number 4 on the Fantasy 5 from Stephen Laidlaw, at Steve Laidlaw, to follow him on Twitter. The managing editor of DobberHockey.com is Jacob Trouba, defenseman for the Winnipeg Jets. No big buff, so Trouba is the beneficiary of some extra time.
Absolutely. He's been up over 22 minutes in the past 3 games since Bufflin's been out. Hasn't had a point in any of those games. Defensemen are always more hit or miss, but certainly he's going to be the guy getting the big time minutes, the top unit power play time. So that's the kind of exposure you want out of a defenseman. So if you need someone to fill in for that injury, Trouba's your guy.
And the final member of the Fantasy 5 this week from Stephen Laidlaw, and hashtag Fantasy 5, David Krejci of the Boston Bruins, who is chipping in with some points for the Bees.
Yeah, he's been banged up all year. Already missed 12 games so far, but, he's still on pace for 54 points despite having missed those 12 games. So he's providing really good secondary production. I'd love it if he was a member of their top power play unit, but currently on the outside looking in. But certainly he's helping Anders Bjork and Jake DeBrusk to provide a little bit of secondary scoring on that second line. He's got some exposure to Charlie McAvoy on that second power play unit. So certainly he's always been a very productive player when healthy, and it looks like he's clicking in 14 points in 18 games when he's been in the lineup. So maybe flying a little bit under the radar in your pool because of injuries, but now that he's healthy, could be very useful.
That is Steve Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, at Steve Laidlaw with this week's Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5. Great info as always, Steve. We appreciate it, and we'll find a time to do this next week because we're off on Sunday, but we'll figure something out. Thanks for this, Steve, and I'll see if the Costanza strategy works this week too.
Sounds good, Todd. And remember, it's not a lie if you believe it.
That's right. That's right. Steve Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com. Here's the Fantasy 5 one more time quickly for you. Kevin Fiala of the Nashville Predators, Daniel Sedin of the Vancouver Canucks, Milan Lucic of the Edmonton Oilers, Jacob Trouba, defenseman for the Winnipeg Jets, and David Krejci of the Boston Bruins. It's a 4-game Sunday NHL schedule, second half of that home and home with the St. Louis Blues and Winnipeg Jets, a 6 p.m. Eastern start. We got Minnesota in Chicago, good Central Division matchup, Calgary and Vancouver, 2 teams that could use some victories. Now, here's the interesting one. Florida Panthers, Vegas Golden Knights. You think, okay, Florida, Vegas. Oh, yeah, that's right. A bit of a connection between these 2 teams, isn't there? Gerard Gallant used to be the head coach of the Florida Panthers. There's a number of former Florida Panthers on the roster, Jonathan Marchessault, Riley Smith. There's a number of other coaches and executives that are members of the Vegas Golden Knights franchise that used to be members of the Florida Panthers. Now, there's not going to be a lot of chirping and a lot of squawking in advance of this game. Vegas is not going to do that. And Gerard Gallant is going to downplay the connection between the two and how he wound up on the outside of the Florida Panthers organization. His approach is going to be, head down, got to focus on the game, win 2 points. But you can't tell me that the Vegas Golden Knights and all the former Florida Panthers, both on-ice players and other members of the organization, wouldn't like to have themselves a nice victory. Not saying they're going to run up the score, but you got to think that this is a game that Vegas would really like to win against the Florida Panthers. Could be an interesting one to watch. Anaheim and Jersey coming up on Monday. LA's and Philadelphia. Will the Kings losing skid end, or will the Philadelphia Flyers winning streak end? We'll find out on Monday. But there's a bunch of other good games this week, all coming up on the schedule as well. Thanks to Stephen Laidlaw for joining us. Thanks to Luke Fox from Sportsnet.ca, to Josh Cooper, to Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic in St. Louis, and to Arthur Staple, all for joining us. Have a great week of hockey. Back with you again next Saturday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, with another edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff, the Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Nova Product Design is designed for manufacturing. Nova Product Design can get the job done with mechanical and industrial design. Nova Product Design is also fully functional for laser cutting, water jet cutting, plating, coatings, and more. Nova Product Design, innovative design and the latest technologies. Nova Product Design can design, build, and test any required types of prototypes and beta units. Visit NovaProductDesign.com. We're looking for your Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day nominations every Saturday. Now you can send them through Instagram. Use the hashtag #HUDogoftheDay. Send us a photo of your dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate them as the HU Dog of the Day. Include your name, the dog's name, and any other cool details you want. We choose a winner and add them to the Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day.